In the headlines, 30 companies looking to boost their export capacity through Direct Assistant Grant Scheme. The DAPD says it's been sidelined in post-Maria recovery efforts, and the plan is in place to improve women's performance in CFU Challenge Series. I am Kenny Williams with the Channel 5 News. Back with the details right after this.
There are signs everywhere. Pay attention whether you're male or female. Visit your health center to get screened. It's a preliminary test to determine if you are exposed to the HIV virus, an STI, or tuberculosis. Some people who are HIV positive also have tuberculosis. But there's hope. Tuberculosis can be cured. And yes, you can live a full life with HIV. Talk to your doctor. Be responsible. Help stop the spread of TB, HIV. Encourage everyone to get tested.
Rudolph Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolph Thomas has lumber and plywood, galvanized and fenced pipe. Check out Rudolph Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. Go now to Rudolph Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
Welcome back. First up, over 30 companies are stepping up preparations to apply for grant assistance amounting 3.8 million euros. The Barbados-based Caribbean Export Development Agency is managing this direct assistance grant scheme through the 11th European Development Fund. Manager of Cooperativeness and Export Promotion at Caribbean Export, Christopher McNair, says the aim is to boost the private sector's capacity to export services and products.
On the 10th EDF, we had approximately 6.1 million euros allocated, of which we were able to disperse 5.7 million euros to companies, and 282 companies benefited under that program.
Okay, what are you looking for under the 11th EDF?
We're looking for better quality projects. We want projects that are going to have a significant impact on the macroeconomic environment in which they occupy. So in the case of Dominica, we're looking for projects that are going to increase exports, create new jobs, alleviate poverty. These are the main objectives of the program.
So how much funds are we talking about?
For the entire program, it's 3.8 million euros.
So
that's down from 6.1 under the 10th EDF, yes.
Okay. Beneficiaries could be reimbursed up to 50,000 euros since this is a reimbursement grant facility.
So the application for the program opens on April 23rd. That's when you can submit an application. That's open for 6 weeks. So deadline is June 4th. Once you have been awarded a grant, basically what you do is you have 6 months implementation. So you have 6 months to implement a project that has been approved for the grant. And then after that 6 months, you have 2 months to submit a reimbursement to us. So that's how the reimbursement works. And then when you are submitting your documentation in that 2-month reimbursement period, you'll submit all of that documentation, what you have spent it on, your invoices, your receipts, your quotations, and then we will reimburse you up to 70%, capped at 50,000 euros.
In more top stories, the Dominica Association of People Living with Disabilities wants its voice heard on issues arising from the recovery of Hurricane Maria. Idona John Baptist explains.
In reflecting on the response to those living with disabilities, the DAPD feels like its members' struggles were undervalued coming out of the post-Hurricane Maria experiences. Executive Director of the national body representing the welfare of persons with disabilities says they were able to make contact with humanitarian actors a month after the hurricane.
We basically had to force ourselves on to some of them, and then eventually we were included as part of the relief that the Dominican Red Cross was providing, and we contacted the Ministry of Social Services, who recommended us, to other agencies, and thankfully we have been getting a lot of assistance from REACH in terms of supplies, in terms of equipment, and so on, because some of our members lost their wheelchairs, some of them need white canes, which we had here. So we are assisting in that regard.
The organization suspended its normal activities in the face of structural damage to its office while it dealt with relief and recovery aid for its members. Where the DAPD struggled for support locally, its regional and international partners stepped in to cushion the effect to an extent.
But 6 months after, we can see a light at the end of the tunnel. Fortunately, we were able to acquire some funding from our partners in Texas to recover part of the roof that was destroyed. And we are doing that now. We have some windows and doors to repair, but the funds are there. And thankfully, we have been getting a lot of assistance from REACH in terms of supplies, in terms of equipment, and so on, because some of our members lost their wheelchairs, some of them need white canes, which we had here. So we are assisting in that regard. And we have also been fortunate in getting our regional counterparts to come on board with us. We have received assistance from Barbados. We got some assistance from St. Kitts. We got some assistance from Guadeloupe, and that has really helped us in our recovery.
In retrospect, Murphy is complaining that its members were overlooked during major interventions post the disaster.
Well, when we hear the reports that come up from our members, you could say yes. Some of them seem to have been forgotten. But in my case, I can speak of myself and my husband. We live alone. My husband is blind. And before the hurricane, there was no one who came to us. After the hurricane, there was no one who came except a neighbor. We stayed 9 days on our own, no supplies, no water, our roof partially gone. It was 9 days after, just before we left, one member of the urban council in Canefield came and brought us a tarpaulin. But that was of no use because we were leaving, the next day. But thankfully, we were prepared.
The non-governmental organization has documented evidence of its members' challenges coming out of the disaster through a documentary funded by the UNDP.
Many of them live with family, or some of them are still, mostly family because the shelters are no longer open, but their homes are destroyed and they need help. They need immediate help. Many of our members speak of, going through a rough time. And it is our intention to circulate that documentary, that production far and wide. We were part also of the national consultation that the government had in February, and we did make our recommendations. So the government of Dominica has that in its possession.
Channel 5 News has reported on cases of 2 persons displaced by the hurricane who use wheelchairs. Patricia Andrew of Scotshead and Egbert Joseph of River Street were both provided temporary accommodation by government. DAPD is conducting an assessment in order to ascertain the degree of its members' losses to source help for them. Idona John Baptist, Channel 5 News.
In other news, the Division of Forestry is putting together a holistic plan to get the country's forest thriving once more. Andrea Louis reports.
The country's forests, while severely damaged by Hurricane Maria, were among the first sectors to show signs of vitality in the wake of the storm. Director of Forestry Mintington Burton explained that rehabilitating Dominica's forests will take a lot of work and money.
We're now looking at trying to put together a holistic strategy and plan to see how we can move now to address the situation of the forest, reforestation, particularly on our watersheds and some of the key areas where we've had serious deforestation. It's not going to be an easy task. I mean, just walking through the forest, if you actually got a chance to go in there, you will see it's not an easy task. There are huge trees on the ground, so sometimes even making your way in there is not an easy task. So we have to look at ways in which we can also utilize some of that. We're thinking of getting probably major wood chippers industrial sawmills, and, use sawmills, work with some of the private sector where we can actually utilize some of them are very good mercantile lumber on the ground. We're also trying to work with other organizations as much as possible to see if we can get some of the funding, both through government and other sources, to see if we can get the necessary funding.
Added to the destruction of trees was the destruction of plant nurseries, which would have been used to help build back numbers in the forests. Burton says the option of importing trees is on the table, but caution is being exercised in introducing new varieties to Dominica.
In our main primary forest, it's not that easy because we don't want to put too many introduced species. We don't already put introduced species. We want to lose a lot of our native species there. So in that case, we already in the process of picking up what we call wildlings or the seedlings, the smaller plants, and but we have to back them. Sometimes the germination rate sometimes is not the best. So it's something that the guys are already in the forest have doing that in the various ranges here and there, picking up the smaller plants and trying to fill the gaps. But sometimes you can never be certain as to the survival. No, it's the germination, but rather the survival rate, mortality rate sometimes quite high on some of these. But again, we also taking some wildlings and bagging them, trying to get them to reroot properly and before we transplant them. So
the forestry director says multiple stakeholders can come on board to restore the country's forests, and even tourists can play their part.
We need the support we need to work across the board with the schools, various communities. I mentioned the fact that we're working with DDA and Ministry of Tourism to look at voluntary work from the tourists when they come in here. We clearing out the area, as you see, by 35 steps there to see if we can get, when the tourists come in from the cruise ship, they can also plant a tree and then, put their names on it. We're trying to look at some of the areas. We already have, for instance, in terms of the clearing up of some of the trails, some partnerships with some institutions, hotel institutions.
According to the Director of Forestry, there was over 90% defoliation, while 40 to 50% of Dominica's trees were downed because of Hurricane Maria.
The Portsmouth and Piditsavan Jinping bands playing at the launch of a documentary on Jinping music at the UE Open Campus on Wednesday. The new documentary, Jinping Music, Foundation to Innovation, was produced by the Cultural Division and narrated by Dr. Lennox Honeychurch. The documentary has been launched as part of this year's Domfesta celebrations, which began last weekend with the Miss Teen Dominica pageant. Chief Cultural Officer Raymond Lawrence says research and documentation have always been a priority for the Cultural Division.
We have produced and published several books and magazines on various aspects of Dominica's culture. We have also produced several volumes of Dominican traditional music, and we have also produced several video documentaries. Apart from the one that you're going to be seeing today and that we are launching today, the other video documentaries which have been produced by the Cultural Division are ones on Bele, our national wear, also on screw pine and its products, the tibois instrument and the music it produces, the sensei costume of Dominica, cassava production, more specifically by the Kalinagos, and Creole head tying. So Jinping music is an integral part of the culture and the heritage of Dominica. It has provided a depth and a richness to our cultural expression. It has certainly helped to identify us as a Dominican people and has been used to promote Dominica all over the world. We are proud of the music, and we're very proud of all the musicians who have played and promoted the music for so many, many years. And I wanted to put your hands together for the Jinping players here and the Jinping players in Dominica.
Jinping music is a combination of European and African musical influences. It's used to accompany most of Dominica's folk dances and is popular during independence celebrations. It's also played at Christmas time during the Sewenal tradition. You are watching the Channel 5 News. When we come back, Hike Fest 2018 is on. That and more when we return.
Do you need more cash for that home improvement? Then come to Fast Cash, where we give you more. At Fast Cash, our customers get more funds and more time to repay. But wait, can't come to us? We'll come to you, and our mobile officer will get you on your way. Small businesses, consumers, and taxi owners. Fast Cash has more for everyone. Simply call or visit any of our locations for more. Smarter, faster, better. Fast Cash. Terms and conditions apply.
M&J Covering is the producer of designed galvanized and galvalume in Dominica. They design to your specifications, color and length, 4 styles of galvanized and galvalume pre-painted roofing sheets as requested, and supply all your galvalume accessories. M&J Covering helps you control spending and reduce waste. At M&J Covering, they are also equipped to build your roof to precise standards anywhere on island. So come to M&J Covering at 1 Mile in Portsmouth or call 445-5001 275-5003 today.
Thank you for staying with us. The Dominica Hotel and Tourism Association, in partnership with other key industry stakeholders, has confirmed that Hike Fest 2018 will be held this year, even if the announcement is a little late. Due to Hurricane Maria, the landscape has undergone serious and significant changes. Hike Fest presents an ideal opportunity for locals, eco-tourists, and others to rediscover the island. DHTA Executive Vice President Kevin Francis says the industry needs this product now more than ever. Francis noted with so many trails still closed, it was challenging finding appropriate trails this year, which contributed to the late announcement. Francis says with other events being cancelled, this needs to be pushed to show that Dominica is getting back on track and the country is open for business. Hike Fest is not exclusively for experienced hikers. All featured trails range from easy to moderate. A qualified tour guide as well as first aid responders will accompany the group on each hike to ensure safety. This year's schedule is as follows. May 5, 2018, Segment 5, Pontcassé-Waitekubuli National Trail. May 12, 2018, Bury Lake. May 19, 2018, Segment 13, Penville to Capuchin, Waitekubuli National Trail. And May 26, 2018, Syndicate Loop Nature Trail. The hikes will take place every Saturday during May and will feature historical, popular trails, including segments of the Waitekubuli National Trail. We continue with this item where 7 months after the passage of Hurricane Maria, the Tourism and Culture Minister is describing progress within the tourism sector as positive. Senator Robert Tongue says 7 months after the storm, the restoration of the hotel room stock is still the primary focus of his ministry. He says in addition to increasing the room stock, work is ongoing to approve the trails to various natural sites for the visiting tourists.
Things are looking positive. The challenges always are the hotel sector in terms of them getting back and opening their rooms as quickly as possible. That poses a challenge for us from the marketing standpoint. You have to gauge how aggressively you can market because you don't want everybody trying to book and they can't get the rooms. So yesterday I was having a meeting with the marketing manager talking about these things to see how best we can work on that. Obviously there's some sites that are iconic to Dominica. We have to ensure that they're officially open. So one of them is the Boiling Lake Trail. It is officially closed, but people are still going to it and it's still a fantastic. So we have to work with the other ministries to make sure that we open them up and make sure everything is done properly.
Tongue says the ministry is engaging in talks with hotel owners to determine in what areas help is needed to increase the number of rooms available for visitors.
We're up to 41% in terms of rooms, but I can double check the actual amount. So every week or so we get updated numbers, but it's become a bit stagnant. So we're hoping to reach out to the hotel association to see what are some of the challenges. Our persons using the funds at the bank, at the aid bank, to their advantage, and to see how else we can try to help.
The minister says the development of the room stock and approval of sites for visitors work hand in hand in determining the marketing strategy of the country post-Hurricane Maria.
Our first thing was to basically see what we had to do, which of the sites were the important ones, make sure we open them. Then our first strategy was to tell the world that we were open, and now we started a new marketing strategy, taking into consideration the volunteerism, also trying to see how we can get specials from the existing hotels that are open, come for a certain number of days and get a day free, just to make it more enticing for the visitor to want to come to Dominica.
Next up, structural changes on the cards for the Ministry of Agriculture. That's according to the new Agriculture Minister, who is also the Deputy Prime Minister. The minister says agriculture remains a vital sector of the economy and more attention must be placed on the development of the farmers.
One thing is clear, that if we are to succeed in agriculture, there has to be some administrative and structural changes to the ministry, both at the ministry level and at the farm level. We have to make the ministry work for the farmers. The farmers are too important a sector in the society for them to be so low down in the chain of agriculture in this country. Farmers will have to be at the forefront of championing our food security situation.
Austria hopes to get cabinet approval on a new plan on the development of the agriculture sector as early as next week.
I want to say to the farmers out there that very shortly we'll be embarking on a Meet the Farmers tour. And that tour will primarily constitute of taking your telephone numbers and giving you my telephone number, that you can have a direct relationship and direct contact with the minister, that we may find ourselves in a position to deliver on time and in time to the farmers of this country. During the next few hours, I'll be meeting with the various sectors and hoping that as early as Tuesday of next week, I can bring a recommendation to Cabinet, and if Cabinet approves, within the next week, you will hear about the changes that we intend to make to bring about greater and more efficiency at the ministry and at the farm level.
And the coconut farmers and extension technicians in the Division of Agriculture are now more knowledgeable in coconut cultivation in terms of making a greater success in restoring Dominica's coconut plantations post-Hurricane Maria. The farmers and extension officers recently completed training facilitated by 3 of Mexico's foremost experts in the field of coconut cultivation.
Gerardo is the intercropping man. Okay, he has a good experience in how to intercrop coconut with different species, you know, and that is a wonderful idea for small farmers. And Mr. Genoveva Ramirez, he's a specialist on geographic information system. Yeah, before coming here, he studied the map of Dominica, and he was trying to do his best to understand how radiation is, how the radiation is distributed in the Dominica island, how the soils are, and temperatures, rainfall, and that way he can explain you where to produce coconut in a better way, okay? And Matilde Cortázar Rios, she's a hybridization lady. She knows properly how to hybridize coconut, so to have a resistant species, coconut ecotype, resistant to lethal yellowing disease. Okay, she has good experience with Pacific tolls and the coconut Atlantic tolls. She will explain you how they behave, those coconuts behave in different ecosystems, okay? And I am George Ramirez. I am a soil specialist, a soil scientist. I will explain you in detail how to interpret soil analysis, soil chemical analysis. I'm going to show you that it's very important to understand the soil before planting. If you don't know the soil, you don't know nothing.
Historically, the Canadian International Development Agency, CIDA, assisted Dominica in developing the coconut sector. This effort reportedly led to a boom in the coconut sector, but Hurricane Maria devastated over 95% of the crop. The goal is to bring Dominica back to where it was in terms of coconut production. That's news, your sports highlights. Next.
If you're HIV positive or have an STI, having unprotected sex with multiple partners puts them in grave danger. You'll expose every partner and their present and future partners to HIV or another STI. Use a condom every time you have sex. You can live a productive life even if diagnosed with HIV. Remember, early detection is key to your survival. Be responsible, protect yourself and others. Help stop the spread of HIV and other STIs.
First up in sports, Dominica went down 1-0 in its opening match of the CFU Women's Challenge Series in St. Kitts on Wednesday. Coming from a one-month training session with national coach Rajesh Lachu, the squad from the Nature Isle fought valiantly in a game against the home team. Lachu says the girls gave it their best shot and identified some positives that came out of Wednesday's encounter.
The game tonight, the girls give 110%. It really had no more, it was very little I could ask for them in terms of their effort. We knew going into the tournament, we were not 90 minutes fit. We only started training 3 days ago. So we know the reality, and the St. Kitts team that we met was a very good team. We chased the ball most of the time, but we were fit enough. The runs on the hills, it kept us in there. The back four, however, in my opinion, we have the best back four and goalkeeper in the whole tournament because they were solid. One error maybe, we thought it was a little offside, but that's how it is. And, we conceded, but the Bertrand sisters, Christina Sobers, Kianja was outstanding at right back. Donisha was very good at the left back. We had the veteran skipper Rosie, who was absolutely, hard-working and very good. And the younger players, they played their part. Seraphine had a decent game until she had, she got too tired. But I'm very pleased with the effort of the players.
The national coach is not discouraged by the result and says there is a plan to improve the team's performance as the league progresses.
We have our program, and according to our program, by the end of the tournament, there will be 80. By the time we're ready in May, there should be 90 minutes fit. And then certain aspects will improve tactically because the girls, they have some deficiencies, but they also have some good, abilities that they brought with them to the team.
Dominica's next encounter will be against St. Lucia on Friday at 5 in the afternoon. Moving on to cricket, where a declaration of 68 for 4 put Portsmouth Secondary in a precarious position in action from the secondary school's Under-15 Cricket Championship on Wednesday. Playing at Benjamin's Park in a low-scoring affair, the home team won the toss and batted first to be bowled out for 73 runs. Devon George scored 19, while Blaine Augustine assisted with 15. Burchard Francis was lethal with the ball to take 6 wickets for 27 runs. In reply, Castlebrew Secondary scored 76 all-out with Ethan Nicholas adding 21. A combination of Jaden Joseph 4 for 19, Jamali Benjamin 3 for 17 and Lesford Luis 2 for 15 saw a brilliant fight back for PSS. Batting a second time, the home team declared on 68 for 4, but that was not enough to give them the run advantage. Set 66 to win, CBSS only needed 6 batsmen for the job and finished on 68 for the loss of 4 wickets. Benny Sanford scored 21 with an undefeated 20 from Yazzie Grano. Lesford Luis snatched 2 for 11 for PSS, however CBSS still won by 6 wickets. Meantime, in a rain-affected match at Jolly John Playing Field, Isaiah Thomas Secondary won the toss and elected to field. Northeast Comprehensive was 138 for 9 at lunch before it rained. Neo Davis 68 and Jerry Augustine 24. Bowling for ITSS, Devontae Look took 5 wickets for 29 runs and Jashon Vidal 2 for 60. Play could not resume after the lunch break and the points were shared. The league continues on Friday with 3 matches. St. Mary's Academy will take on Dominica Grammar School at Windsor Park Sports Stadium. The Pierre Charles and Goodwill Secondary Schools will go head-to-head at Botanic Gardens, and at Jolly John, Northeast Comprehensive and Castlebrew Secondary will battle it out for the win. Next up, head of Dominica Football Association is calling on all concerned to play their part in producing a superior football product that is indicative of Dominica's rich talent. The president shared his concern with the rest of the football fraternity at a presentation ceremony over the weekend.
We want to sell a DFA brand of football, and that's something we have not maybe seen in the past, where the country is selling the same brand of football, in the sense that what happens in Port Small, what happens in Port Michel, what happens in La Plaine will be similar. I mean, yes, the coaches in the local territory, yeah, they have to tweak and use their initiative to beat Harlem or to beat Port Michel, because it's your concept of your play and your players, because different teams have different players. But we want to know that when person comes from various clubs, that they are ready for high-level football development in terms of national team. And we all know, we live in Dominica, in the past, we falter along that line, in the sense that when you come to the national team, we have to start you from scratch in training and basic things that you should have gone through the ropes already.
Etienne says the DFA is also targeting an improved grassroots program here.
Another thing we are vigorously doing now is our grassroots program, which I know the technical director has visited some of the schools, and something they're going to be starting soon, and that will help. And it's both the gender, male and female.
That's all the sports for now. Join us next time. To end the news, the headlines again. 30 companies looking to boost their export capacity through the Direct Assistance Grant Scheme. The DAPD says it's been sidelined in post-Maria recovery efforts, and the plan is in place to improve women's performance in CFU Challenge Series. Feel free to contact us at news@marpin2k4.com. You can also access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Kenny Williams. To all viewers around the world, thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.